Why do you think that the life expectancy in the USA is so low compared to other similarly developed countries? So compared to the UK, for example, I think it's about a 6-year difference.
Yeah, I think it has almost nothing to do with healthcare, frankly. I think we have destroyed our families. I think we have gone through an absolute epidemic of childhood trauma, and childhood trauma predicts early death. We have addiction run wild, and we have a philosophy of approaching addiction as just people living their best life as opposed to having a brain disease. We don't treat psychiatric illness at all. We leave it run in the streets. We have such a weird lack of understanding of what happens when our brain isn't working right or when psychiatric illness kicks in that we just are distorted on that, and that is dramatically affecting our life expectancy. Then our food is a mess, and I think people are becoming increasingly aware of that. Our lack of attending to health and fitness. Although, it's funny I was in Scotland a couple years ago and with a big group of Americans. And I remember I went running. I asked them where a nice running trail was. And I remember the front desk going, "My, you Americans are so fit." And I thought, oh, that's these kinds of people. That's the upper middle class people that are paying attention. So there's this big divide between
Mm.
upper middle class and people who are the rest of the country who are just in trouble, frankly. And the kinds of yummy foods they're getting are intentionally addictive and are intentionally harming not intentionally harming them, but necessarily harming them. And we don't teach people how to make good choices. I mean, if you just taught conscious eating and just just basic exercise programs and prioritize that. We used to have the President's Council on Fitness. That was all gone away. And you're not even allowed to comment on people's fitness. You are fat phobic. You are judgmental. You're not allowed, even as a physician. You're not allowed. You're on delicate territory if you ask somebody about their BMI and what they might want to do about it, unless you're willing to give them a medication to take it all away. Then Ozempic and Mounjaro are good. It's bizarre. It's just we have such a bizarre relationship with our health. But but I would
Mm.
say that our psychiatric, emotional, spiritual health is so bad that for me, because I see the impact of that all over the place, that's, I think, what has a measurable effect on our life expectancy. I really do. Plus, we have a loneliness epidemic and we have relationships that are messed up. Our families, normally families would capture people and take care of them. We don't do that. We leave them alone or we leave them in nursing homes. It's just, ugh. There's so many layers to this one. I didn't know where to start.
There are. I mean, what changed? It sounds like it wasn't always like this.
Fundamentally, what changed, I don't know this to be true, and I have no objective data to back this up, but my sense is the attack on the family. The family became just another way to do things. And I understand why they were doing that. They wanted to say that a family is whatever you say it is. A family is two men, two women, which is, and then you have this whole movement, which is I'm totally supportive of that, by the way. But they still could be families. Still have to focus on families, support families. But this it takes a village notion stepped in because families were so destroyed that it became racist or classist to say, "Hey, we got to focus on families. How dare you? You are taking a group of people and putting them under the microscope, and you're judging how they're doing things." No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just saying you're gonna be happier and healthier if we're able to help with that. Just take a look at it. And I think that's what happened. And this takes a village is just not true. Yes, it takes a village when a family fails, but it is always the case that the unit, the fundamental building block of all civilizations throughout all of human history in all cultures needs to be supported. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's weird. When I look at all of these Western countries, particularly in the Anglosphere, there's all these issues, and then there's this layer which you've touched on multiple times. This layer of so-called political correctness, which is actually extremely destructive because it prevents people from actually talking about the issues head on. And I always say that if you can't talk about an issue, then you can't solve it. I mean, you probably can't even diagnose it. If it's just, hey, you're not allowed to talk about obesity, then
Right. That's right. Well, then it's going to go wild. It's going to do what it does. But there is a layer in here that needs to be deeply understood in our present moment that follows out of what you're observing and what you're saying, which is there is mob behavior afoot now. And I saw it during COVID, when these mob actions, which I always thought it was the press sort of generating it to create eyeballs, or that individuals were doing it to create eyeballs for their social media sites or something. I never imagined the government was involved with it, but lo and behold, they were. And this mob activity coalescing around cancellation, and canceling, to me, I knew immediately was guillotines. That's what that is. This is Jacobin behavior, 1790. It's Russian Revolution. It's Nazi. It's every major hysteria. And it's interesting, the book by Eric Larson about early 1930 Germany through the eyes of an American ambassador, he uses the word hysteria a number of times. And I thought, oh, that's right. Even the fascists, these were all hysterical mob behaviors, mob actions. We need to understand that. So I'm reading broadly about mobs and how these things catch on, and who's victimized by them, and mass formation. And we need to understand that, because we now have graduated from cancellation to actual violence. Those of you who are saying that kid who was psychotic, I promise you'll find out, who shot the insurance executive, was, well, what are you going to do? That's just justified. Hey, man, I feel joy for him. That was a quote. That is disgusting. And now you are into the realm of guillotines. Now we're there. We just have left off the scaffold, but maybe the scaffolding will show up. It is this. You need to check yourself if you are moving down that path.
Today's episode is brought to you by Sambrosa, the best way to get your 8 hours of rest. I met the owners of the company while they were on tour with Tucker Carlson, and their nighttime syrup has been a game changer for me. It's really effective to get your quality rest at night. Sambrosa contains a natural base of 7 organic herbs, honey, and a small amount of antihistamine. It's effective and soothing with no harsh chemicals, no high fructose corn syrup, no artificial colors or dyes, and it helps with nighttime allergies. Sambrosa is a family-owned company who share my values of faith, freedom, and integrity. I've been using their products since before they started sponsoring this podcast, so I can personally vouch for its quality. My listeners can try Sambrosa today and get 10% off by going to sambrosa.com/Zuby10. That's SAMBROSA.com/Zuby10 for 10% off. Try Sambrosa and wake up ready to embrace life's opportunities.